The crisp white envelope sat on my dinner plate like a death certificate. My future mother-in-law, Margaret Carver, watched me with the predatory smile of a loan shark collecting interest. Around us, the upscale restaurant buzzed with the kind of conversations that cost more per syllable than most people made in an hour. "Go ahead, Jason," she purred, her manicured fingers drumming against her wine glass. "Open it." I glanced at my fiancée, Lily, hoping for some hint of what fresh hell awaited me. Her perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide the cold satisfaction in her eyes. She knew. Whatever was in this envelope, she was part of it. "Some people hand out wedding mints at engagement dinners," I muttered, tearing open the seal. "Apparently the Carver family prefers." The words died in my throat as I unfolded the paper. Invoice. Services rendered. Raising Lily Marie Carver. Total due, $10,000. Payment due, before wedding date. Below that, itemized in neat columns, were 28 years of expenses, private school tuition, dance lessons, orthodontics, college costs, even grocery bills from when Lily was 12. Every dollar spent, calculated with interest. "What the hell is this?" I asked, my voice barely controlled. Margaret's smile widened. "A mother's investment, dear. I've raised Lily to be the perfect wife. Educated her, refined her, made her into the woman you fell in love with. Surely that's worth something?" The restaurant seemed to fade around me. Conversations became white noise. The only sound I could hear clearly was my own heartbeat, pounding like a drum in my ears. "You're serious," I said. It wasn't a question. "Completely." Margaret leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. $10,000, Jason. A bargain, really, considering what you're getting. I looked at Lily again. My beautiful, ambitious fiancée sat there like a statue, her hands folded in her lap. Not a word of protest, not even a hint of embarrassment. "And if I don't pay?" I asked. Lily finally spoke, her voice as cold as January rain. "Then there's no wedding." The words hit me like a physical blow. 3 years together. 3 years of building a life, making plans, dreaming about our future. And it all came down to this, a bill for services I never requested. "Some investment advice, Margaret," I said, carefully folding the invoice and sliding it into my jacket pocket. "You might want to diversify your portfolio." I stood up, threw my napkin on the table, and walked out of the restaurant. Behind me, I heard Lily calling my name, but I didn't turn around. I had some thinking to do. My garage sat on the wrong side of town, wedged between a pawn shop and a diner that served coffee strong enough to wake the dead. It wasn't much to look at. Concrete floors stained with 30 years of oil, fluorescent lights that flickered when the wind blew, and the persistent smell of motor oil and honest sweat. But it was mine. I'd built this business from nothing, started with a toolbox and a dream. Worked 16-hour days, scraped together every dollar to buy equipment and inventory. While Lily's family threw money around like confetti, I earned every penny the hard way. Tyler looked up from the engine he was rebuilding as I walked in. My best friend since high school. He had the scarred knuckles of a man who'd spent his life fixing things that other people broke. "You look like someone just told you Christmas was canceled," he said, wiping his hands on a rag. I pulled out the invoice and handed it to him. Tyler read it twice, then looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "This is a joke, right? Please tell me this is some kind of sick joke." I wish it was. I grabbed a beer from the mini fridge and twisted off the cap. 10 grand, Tyler. She wants 10 grand for raising her own daughter. And Lily's okay with this? Lily's the one who delivered the ultimatum. Tyler shook his head slowly. "Man, I always thought there was something off about that family. Too much money, too little sense. But this? This is next level crazy." I took a long pull from the beer, letting the cold liquid wash away the bitter taste in my mouth. "You know what the real kick in the teeth is? I was actually going to pay it." "What?" For about 30 seconds, sitting in that restaurant, I was actually considering it. $10,000 to marry the woman I love. Hell, I've spent more than that on the ring and the wedding deposits. But you're not going to pay it. I looked around the garage, at the cars in various states of repair, at the tools I'd bought with my own money, at the business I'd built with my own hands. Then I thought about Lily, sitting in that restaurant, watching her mother humiliate me like I was some kind of servant. "No," I said finally, "I'm not going to pay it. In fact, I'm going to do something better." Tyler raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through my contacts. Wedding photographer, caterer, florist, venue coordinator. All the vendors I'd been working with for months. all the deposits I'd put down in my name. I'm going to give them exactly what they asked for, I said, dialing the first number. A wedding that's paid in full. The next 2 hours were the most liberating of my life. One by one, I called every wedding vendor and canceled our contracts. The photographer was understanding. She'd dealt with cold feet before. The caterer was less sympathetic, but agreed to refund half the deposit. The florist actually seemed relieved. Apparently, Lily had been a nightmare to work with, but the real masterpiece was the venue. The coordinator, a woman named Patricia who'd endured months of Margaret's micromanaging, was practically gleeful when I explained the situation. "So you're telling me," she said, barely containing her laughter, "that the mother of the bride actually invoiced you for raising her daughter?" $10,000, I confirmed. Itemized and everything. Oh, honey, I've been in this business for 20 years, and I have never heard anything like that. You know what? Forget the cancellation fee. Consider it my wedding gift to you, the gift of freedom. By the time I finished making calls, word had already started to spread. The wedding industry in our city was small and gossipy, and a story like this was too good to keep quiet. I could practically hear the whispers starting. "Did you hear about the Carver wedding? The mother-in-law actually billed the groom for raising the bride." My phone buzzed with a text from Lily. "Where are you? We need to talk." I typed back. "At the garage, paying my debts." She responded immediately. "What does that mean?" Instead of answering, I did something I'd never done before. I took a selfie. Me and Tyler, surrounded by cars and tools and everything that represented my real life, and posted it on social media with a simple caption. "Wedding canceled. Debt paid in full. #invoice for love." Within minutes, the post had dozens of likes and comments. Friends asking what happened, acquaintances offering support, and a few people who'd clearly heard the story through the gossip network and were laughing their asses off. My phone started ringing. Lily's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. "You might want to answer that," Tyler said. "She's probably not happy." "Good," I replied. "It's about time someone in that family experienced a little unhappiness." The garage door rattled open, and Lily stormed in like a hurricane in designer heels. Behind her came Margaret and a man I recognized as Brent Morrison, Lily's friend from her PR firm. Brent was everything I wasn't. Tall, polished, and born with a silver spoon so far up his ass he could taste the family crest. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Lily screamed, her perfect composure finally cracking. I gestured around the garage. "Working. You know, that thing people do to earn money instead of inheriting it." "You canceled our wedding." "No, I canceled my financial obligation to your mother's delusions. There's a difference." Margaret stepped forward, her face flushed with rage. "How dare you embarrass us like this? Do you have any idea what people are saying? That you tried to sell your daughter like a used car?" I suggested. "Because that's exactly what happened." Brent finally spoke up, his voice dripping with condescension. "Look, Jason, I think there's been a misunderstanding here, Mrs. Carver was just trying to—" "I'm sorry," I interrupted. "Who the hell are you again? And why are you here?" Lily and Brent exchanged a look, just for a second, but I caught it. The kind of look that passes between people who share secrets. "Brent's a friend," Lily said quickly. "He came for moral support." "Moral support," I repeated. "Right, because nothing says moral support like bringing your male coworker to confront your fiancé." The silence stretched out like a rubber band about to snap. Tyler had stopped working and was watching the scene with undisguised interest. Margaret kept glancing around the garage like she expected to catch something contagious. And Lily, beautiful, ambitious Lily, looked like she wanted to be anywhere else in the world. "You know what?" I said finally. "I'm actually glad this happened, because it showed me exactly what I was buying into. A family that thinks love comes with a price tag, and a fiancé who won't stand up to her own mother." "That's not fair," Lily protested. "Fair?" I laughed, and it came out harsher than I intended. "You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been warning me about this insane invoice. Fair would have been defending me in that restaurant. Fair would have been telling your mother that her little scheme was crazy." "The scheme isn't crazy," Margaret interjected. "It's business. I invested in Lily's future, and I deserve a return on that investment." "Then you should have incorporated her at birth," I shot back. "Filled the proper paperwork with the SEC. Because what you're doing isn't business. It's extortion." Brent stepped closer, and I could smell his expensive cologne. "Maybe you should calm down, Jason. You're getting a little worked up." Something in his tone, the casual dismissal, the implied threat, flipped a switch in my brain. I'd spent years being the reasonable one, the peacemaker, the guy who swallowed his pride to keep everyone happy. But I was done being reasonable. You know what, Brent? You're right. I am worked up. In fact, I'm so worked up that I'm going to do something really crazy. I pulled out my phone and opened the camera app. I'm going to tell everyone in this city exactly what kind of people the Carvers really are. I hit record and started talking, my voice steady and clear. Hi everyone, Jason here. Some of you might have seen my post about canceling my wedding. Well, let me tell you the whole story. Stop. Margaret lunged for the phone, but Tyler stepped between us. The lady asked me to stop, I said to the camera. But I think people deserve to know the truth. You see, my former future mother-in-law decided that raising her own daughter entitled her to a $10,000 payment from me. Not a gift, not a loan, a bill for services rendered. Lily was backing toward the door, her face pale. Brent looked like he wanted to disappear. Margaret was practically vibrating with rage. And when I refused to pay this ridiculous invoice, I continued, my fiancée, the woman I've loved for 3 years, told me there wouldn't be a wedding. Just like that. No discussion, no compromise, no nothing. I stopped recording and posted the video immediately. Within seconds, it started getting views. You're going to regret this, Margaret hissed. The only thing I regret, I replied, is not seeing you people for what you really are sooner. They left after that, Lily casting one last look over her shoulder as they walked away. I thought I saw something like regret in her eyes, but it might have been my imagination. Tyler waited until they were gone before he spoke. Well, that was something. That was just the beginning, I said, watching my video rack up likes and shares. Those people want to play games? Let's see how they like it when someone plays back. The video went viral overnight. By morning, #invoice for love was trending locally, and my story had been shared hundreds of times. The comments ranged from supportive to outraged to downright hilarious. Someone had even made a meme out of Margaret's photo, captioning it, "Mother-in-law from hell, now accepting payment plans." But the real entertainment came from watching the Carver family's social media accounts. Margaret's Facebook page, usually filled with humble brags about charity galas and country club events, had been flooded with comments about the invoice. Lily's Instagram, where she carefully curated her image as a successful PR professional, was getting roasted by strangers who'd heard the story. I was enjoying my morning coffee and scrolling through the chaos when Tyler walked into the garage with a grim expression. "We need to talk," he said. "Good morning to you too, sunshine." "I'm serious, Jason. I just got off the phone with my cousin Danny, you know, the one who works at Hartley and Associates." Hartley and Associates was the biggest PR firm in the city, also, coincidentally, Lily's biggest competitor. "Let me guess," I said. "They want to hire me as their spokesperson for wronged fiancés everywhere?" "Danny says there's talk about your business. Bad talk. Someone's been making calls, spreading rumors about your work quality, your reliability, that kind of thing." The coffee suddenly tasted bitter. "What kind of rumors?" "The kind that make people think twice about bringing their cars here. Danny heard it from a client who heard it from someone else, but the word is that you're unstable, that you can't be trusted with expensive vehicles." I set down my mug and looked around the garage. 3 classic cars in various stages of restoration, each one worth more than most people made in a year. Their owners trusted me with machines that were part investment, part passion project, part family heirloom. My reputation was everything in this business. "They're trying to destroy me," I said. "Looks that way. Danny says it's being done real professional-like. Not obvious enough to prove, but effective enough to hurt." I thought about Lily's job at Morrison and Blake PR, about the connections her family had throughout the city's business community, about Brent's real estate empire, and all the wealthy clients who collected classic cars as status symbols. "Professional," I repeated. "Like someone in PR might do it." Tyler nodded grimly. "Danny also mentioned something else. There's been talk about you and Lily for months. Apparently some people weren't surprised when they heard about the wedding being called off." "What kind of talk?" "The kind that suggests maybe Lily had other options, and maybe she was keeping those options warm, just in case." The pieces started falling into place. Brent showing up at the garage like he belonged there, the look that passed between him and Lily, the way she'd been working late more often, taking more client dinners, spending more time with her work friends. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Check your email." The email contained a single attachment, a screenshot of text messages. I opened it and felt my world tilt sideways. The messages were between Lily and Brent, dated from 2 weeks ago. Lily: "He's getting suspicious about us working late together." Brent: "Maybe it's time to end this charade. You don't need him anyway. Lily. I need the wedding canceled first. Can't look like the bad guy. Brent. Leave that to me. I have an idea. There were more messages, but I stopped reading. The anonymous sender had included a note. Thought you should know what kind of people you're dealing with. A friend. I showed Tyler the messages. He read them twice, then shook his head. Jesus, Jason, they set you up. The whole thing, the invoice, the ultimatum, all of it, was designed to make you cancel the wedding, so Lily could play the victim, I finished. Poor abandoned bride, left at the altar by her unstable fiancé. And now they're trying to destroy your business to make sure you can't fight back. I stared at the messages, feeling something cold and hard settling in my chest. I'd been played, manipulated by people I'd trusted, people I'd loved. They'd used my own decency against me, counting on me to be reasonable, to take the high road, to walk away quietly. Tyler, I said, remember what you used to tell me back in high school about fighting? Never start a fight, but always finish one. I think it's time to finish this one. The plan came together over the next few hours. If Lily and her family wanted to play dirty, I could play dirty too. But I had advantages they didn't know about. Advantages that came from being underestimated my entire life. First advantage. I was a financial consultant before I became a full-time mechanic. I understood money, investments, and most importantly, I knew how to find information that people preferred to keep hidden. Second advantage. I had friends in places the Carvers would never think to look. Blue-collar guys who fixed their cars, delivered their packages, cleaned their offices after hours. People who were invisible to the wealthy, but who saw everything. Third advantage. I had nothing left to lose. I started with Brent's real estate business. A few phone calls to friends in construction, some careful questions about permits and inspections, and I had a clearer picture of Morrison Development. On the surface, everything looked legitimate, but surfaces could be deceiving. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Mrs. Chen, who owned the Chinese restaurant next to my garage. Her son worked for the city planning department, and she'd overheard me talking to Tyler about Brent. That man, she said, shaking her head disapprovingly. He causes problems for my nephew's construction company. Always bidding jobs, then changing the terms after contracts are signed. Very dishonest. She introduced me to her nephew, Tommy, who had stories that would make a prosecutor salivate. Brent's standard operating procedure was to bid low to win contracts, then inflate costs through change orders and unforeseen complications. Not technically illegal, but definitely unethical. More importantly, Tommy knew about Brent's personal life. The expensive condo that was mortgaged to the hilt, the gambling problem that he hid from his business partners, the pattern of dating women who worked in related industries, architects, interior designers, and now PR professionals, always women who could help his business. Your ex-fiancée, Tommy said. She's not the first. There was an architect last year, lasted about 6 months. Before that, a woman who worked for the mayor's office. Always the same pattern. He wines and dines them, gets them to help with permits or publicity, then moves on when he gets what he needs. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and pity. Lily thought she was playing me, but she was being played just as hard. The next phase of my plan required a different kind of research. I spent hours going through social media posts, cross-referencing dates and locations, building a timeline of Lily and Brent's relationship. What I found was a masterclass in deception. They'd been careful. No obvious couple photos, no public displays of affection, but there were patterns. Business dinners, where they both posted photos from the same restaurants on the same nights. Weekend work conferences in the same cities. A hiking trip that Lily had told me was a girls' weekend, but where Brent had posted photos from the same trail on the same day. The evidence was circumstantial, but damning. More importantly, it was the kind of evidence that would be devastating if it became public. Lily's career depended on her reputation for honesty and integrity. If her clients knew she'd been lying to her own fiancé for months, how could they trust her with their business? But I wanted more than just evidence of an affair. I wanted to understand the full scope of their plan. And for that, I needed to get closer to the source. The opportunity came sooner than expected. My phone rang, and Lily's name appeared on the screen. For the first time since the garage confrontation, I answered. Jason? Her voice was small, uncertain. Can we talk? I thought we said everything we needed to say. Please, I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. But there are things you don't understand. Things about my family, about the pressure I'm under. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Where do you want to meet? Somewhere private, away from my mother, away from everyone, just you and me. We agreed to meet at Riverside Park, a quiet spot where we'd had our first date 3 years ago. I arrived early and set up my phone to record audio, hidden in my jacket pocket. If Lily wanted to talk, I was going to make sure I had a record of every word. She looked beautiful, as always, but there was something different about her, a nervousness I'd never seen before. She kept glancing around like she expected someone to jump out of the bushes. "Thank you for coming," she said, sitting on the bench beside me but maintaining careful distance. "You said there were things I didn't understand. I'm listening." She took a deep breath. "My mother, she's not well, Jason. Financially, I mean. The family money, most of it's gone. Bad investments, my father's gambling, the cost of maintaining appearances. That invoice wasn't just about controlling you. She really needs the money. So you decided to pimp out your own wedding. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. The plan was to ask you for a loan, frame it as helping family. But Mother insisted on the invoice idea. She said it would teach you your place in the family hierarchy." I felt my jaw clench. "And you went along with it." I was scared, Jason. Scared of disappointing her. Scared of losing everything I'd worked for. "You don't know what it's like, growing up in that family. The expectations, the pressure to be perfect all the time. So you decided to make me the villain instead." She looked genuinely confused. "What do you mean?" "Come on, Lily. The whole thing was designed to make me cancel the wedding. You get to play the abandoned bride, I get to be the unstable ex-fiancé who couldn't handle your family's success." "That's not— I never wanted you to cancel the wedding." "Then why didn't you defend me? In the restaurant, in the garage, anytime your mother was treating me like hired help." She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Because I was a coward. Because it was easier to let you be the bad guy than to stand up to her. And Brent? Where does he fit into all this?" The question hit her like a physical blow. Her face went pale, and she started stammering. "Brent? He's a colleague, a friend who's been dating you for months while you were engaged to me. That's not— How did you—" I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshot of the text messages. Her face crumpled as she read them. "Jason, I can explain." "Explain what? That you've been cheating on me? That you and your boyfriend cooked up this whole scheme to get rid of me? That you've been trying to destroy my business to make sure I can't fight back? We never meant for it to go this far. It was supposed to be simple, a clean break, no hard feelings." "No hard feelings." I stood up, my voice rising. "You tried to humiliate me in public, destroy my reputation, and ruin my livelihood. And you expected no hard feelings." She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. "I'm sorry, Jason. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you, but you did hurt me. And now you're going to live with the consequences." I started to walk away, then turned back. "Oh, and Lily, you might want to do some research on your boyfriend. Ask him about the architect he dated last year, or the woman from the mayor's office before that. Ask him about his gambling debts and his mortgage problems. You're not his girlfriend, you're his latest mark." I left her sitting on the bench, crying into her hands. The recording device in my pocket had captured every word of our conversation, including her admission of the scheme and her affair with Brent. But I wasn't done yet, not by a long shot. The next morning brought news that made my coffee taste like victory. Tyler burst into the garage waving his phone like a battle flag. "You're not going to believe this," he said, barely containing his excitement. "Remember that video you posted? Someone made a remix." He showed me his screen. A local DJ had taken the audio from my garage confrontation, set it to music, and created a 3-minute masterpiece called Invoice for Love, the Margaret Carver Blues. It was already trending on TikTok, with hundreds of people making their own versions, but the real gem was in the comments. Apparently, Margaret Carver wasn't the only parent who'd tried to monetize their child's relationships. People were sharing their own horror stories about entitled in-laws, greedy relatives, and family members who treated love like a business transaction. "Look at this one," Tyler said, scrolling through the comments. "Woman in Phoenix says her mother-in-law charged her husband rent for living in his childhood bedroom after they got married. And this guy in Miami, his father-in-law actually sent him a bill for emotional damages after he divorced the daughter." "I've started a movement," I said, only half joking. "You've started a revolution. People are pissed off about entitled rich families, and you've given them a rallying cry." My phone buzzed with a notification. Someone had tagged me in a post on the Morrison & Blake PR firm's Facebook page. I clicked the link and found something beautiful, a comment thread that had spiraled completely out of control. The original post was innocuous, something about the firm's commitment to authentic storytelling and genuine client relationships. But the comments section had been hijacked by people who'd heard about Lily's situation. How can we trust a PR firm whose employees can't even be honest with their own fiancés? Authentic storytelling? Like billing your future son-in-law for raising your daughter? I heard one of their account managers has been cheating on her fiancé while planning their wedding. Real authentic. The firm was trying to delete comments as fast as they appeared. But the internet is forever. Screenshots were being shared, the story was spreading, and Morrison and Blake's reputation was taking a beating. But the real prize came in the form of a phone call from an unknown number. "Is this Jason Mitchell?" The voice was female, professional, with just a hint of satisfaction. "Depends who's asking. My name is Patricia Hendricks. I'm a reporter with the City Business Journal. I've been following your story, and I'd like to do an interview." The City Business Journal was the local paper that covered politics, business, and society news. It was the kind of publication that Margaret Carver read religiously, the kind that could make or break reputations in our social climbing community. "What kind of interview?" I asked. "I'm working on a piece about the intersection of family dynamics and financial expectations in modern relationships. Your situation is a perfect case study. And you want my side of the story. I want the truth. I've already spoken to several wedding vendors who confirmed that you canceled all the contracts. I've seen the social media posts, the viral videos, the public reaction. But I'd like to hear directly from you about what happened and why." I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. When and where? We met that afternoon at a coffee shop downtown. Patricia Hendricks was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who took notes by hand and asked questions that cut straight to the heart of the matter. "Walk me through the dinner," she said. "The moment you opened that invoice." I told her everything, the itemized list, Margaret's predatory smile, Lily's cold ultimatum. Patricia's pen moved steadily across her notepad, capturing every detail. "And your response was to cancel all the wedding contracts." "My response was to refuse to be extorted by people who claimed to love me." "Some might say you overreacted, that you could have negotiated, found a compromise." "Some might say that," I agreed. "Those people would be wrong. You don't negotiate with extortionists, and you don't compromise with people who try to put a price tag on love." She asked about the aftermath, the viral video, the social media reaction, the rumors about my business. I told her about the whisper campaign, the professional sabotage, the systematic attempt to destroy my reputation. "Do you have proof of this campaign?" I showed her the screenshots of Lily and Brent's text messages, the evidence of their affair, the timeline I'd constructed of their deception. Patricia studied the messages carefully. "These suggest premeditation, that the invoice was part of a larger plan." "The invoice was bait," I said. "They knew I wouldn't pay it. They were counting on me to react exactly the way I did, so Lily could play the victim and move on to her new boyfriend without looking like the cheater she is." "And Brent Morrison? What's his role in all this?" I told her about Brent's pattern of dating women in related industries, his financial problems, his reputation for unethical business practices. Patricia took notes on everything, occasionally asking for clarification or additional details. "This is quite a story," she said finally. "But I have to ask, what's your endgame here? What do you hope to accomplish?" "I want people to know the truth. I want them to understand what really happened. And I want there to be consequences for the people who tried to destroy me." "What kind of consequences?" I smiled. "The kind that come naturally when people find out who you really are." The interview was published 3 days later under the headline, "The $10,000 Question: When Family Expectations Become Financial Extortion." Patricia had done her homework, interviewing wedding vendors, social media experts, and even a family therapist who specialized in toxic relationships. But the real bombshell came in the sidebar story. The business of romance, how some use relationships as professional networking. This piece detailed Brent's pattern of dating women in related industries, complete with quotes from his previous girlfriends who'd figured out his game. The architect from last year was particularly eloquent. "He made me feel like I was the most important person in the world, right up until he got the permits he needed for his downtown project. Then suddenly he was too busy to return my calls." The reaction was swift and brutal. Morrison and Blake PR issued a statement distancing themselves from their employees' personal choices. Brent's business partners called an emergency meeting to discuss his unprofessional conduct. Margaret Carver's country club friends started avoiding her at social events. But the sweetest revenge came from an unexpected source. Lily herself. She called me the day after the article was published, her voice shaking with rage. How could you do this to me? To us? I trusted you. You trusted me? I laughed. That's rich, coming from someone who's been cheating on me for months. Wav, yeah, it wasn't like that. Brent and we were just friends until recently. The feelings developed over time. Save it for someone who cares, Lily. I've seen the evidence. I know how long this has been going on. You've ruined everything. My job, my reputation, my relationship with Brent. He won't even take my calls anymore. Gee, I wonder why. Maybe he's realized that dating you isn't good for his business anymore. She was crying now, the same manipulative tears she'd used to get her way our entire relationship. But they didn't work on me anymore. I loved you, she whispered. Despite everything, I really did love you. No, you didn't, I said calmly. You loved the idea of me. The stable, reliable guy who would pay the bills and ask no questions while you played your games. But you never loved me enough to defend me, support me, or even be honest with me. So this is it? This is how it ends? This isn't how it ends, Lily. This is how it's already ended. Everything else is just cleanup. I hung up and blocked her number. Then I opened my laptop and started working on the next phase of my plan. The beauty of being a financial consultant is that you learn to think several moves ahead. While everyone else was reacting to the current situation, I was already planning for